Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Blue Smoke and Black Ink, the podcast of 30-minute chats with some of the best writers in America. And today, I'm really pleased to have an old pal of mine, Louella Bryant. I call her Peg Ellie, so I'll be calling her Peg Ellie through the cast. Let me just introduce you to her in case you don't already know. She's the author of 10 books, fiction, memoir, biography. Her award-winning writing has appeared in magazines and anthologies. She's a former professor of creative writing. She blogs. She directs a writing group. I hope I'm not embarrassing you here, Peg, with all of these things. She lives in Vermont now, where she writes. In her spare time, I never knew this, she practices Tai Chi and dreams up new recipes for Vermont products, always using the ingredient of a Vermont maple syrup. Anyway, her website is louellabryant.com. And hi, Pegali, how are you? It's great to see
Hi,
you.
Jim. Good to see you too.
I should have added to all of that you're one of my oldest friends. I was looking back, and it was 50 years ago, 50
Oh
years
no.
ago. You and I walked out of, do you remember Professor Paul Eschholz at
Oh,
UVM?
sure.
We walked out of
Absolutely.
out of one of his classes and we started talking. And of course, you're just as beautiful now as you were back then. Your readers can see that. So how have you been? What have you been up to in these 50 years, lady?
Oh gosh. Well, I often think, what would I do if I didn't write? And
Yeah.
I live with a man who is very quiet.
Oh, we're going to get into hacksaw in quite a bit. Don't worry, we'll be talking about the hacksaw. But
And
anyway, go ahead.
we live in the Vermont woods, and so there's not much going on out here. So I do Tai Chi and I write, and I sometimes I cook and maybe have a little dinner party, but n fewer and fewer times I do that these days.
Oh,
So
that
yeah, that's what I've been up to. When I can drag my husband out of the house, we travel a little bit around the world, but he's kind of a stay-at-home guy. So
yeah, we might as well get hacksaw out of the way right away. I always enjoy it when two people in different sections of my life meet and sometimes fall in love and get married. But I knew Hacksaw as a fellow student at Winooski High School. I'm a student, I mean teacher at
teacher,
Winooski High
yeah,
School. I knew you as a writer, although I knew you were out there at Mount Mansfield. One day, it must have been in the 1980s. I'm sitting at a K.D. Lang concert in Memorial Auditorium.
I
And
remember
by the
that.
way, this has nothing to do with anything, but K.D. Lang has a singing voice that's almost more than human. You listen to her singing and you say that can't be coming out of a human being. But anyway, I turn around and I see you and Harry Reynolds sitting there, and you two have been together ever since. I think that's just great. How is he doing?
Great. We're celebrating 36 years of marriage next week, and
Oh, that's
during
terrific.
yeah,
Congratulations. Enjoy
yeah.
each other.
So
Here, how
he's doing well. He still plays a hockey player. He's still playing hockey twice a week.
he's still lacing them up, is he really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. All right, here's a story you might not remember. You and he were dating, maybe already married, and you're watching a movie called Love Story. Do you remember what Hacksaw said to you casually?
He said, yes, he said, I'm in that movie.
Right. Yeah.
And if you we have the CD or the DVD of it, and he's in the opening scene, which takes place in the hockey rink, and he's wearing a Dartmouth jersey, number 8. So if you
Oh.
watch the movie, look for him. And he said, yeah, the first and second line got to wear Harvard jerseys, but I was third line, so they put me in a Dartmouth jersey. So there's a later hockey scene he's into, and Ryan O'Neal couldn't skate at all.
Oh,
So the
really?
coach played Ryan O'Neal with a wig on.
Oh, that's great.
We still talk about that movie and Ally McGraw and Ryan O'Neal quite
Oh,
often. He met them both.
oh, that's terrific. And didn't he even meet the Queen Elizabeth at one point Or am I
He met
imagining that?
the Queen Mother. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to, we only have 30 minutes and I don't want to spend the entire time talking about Hacksaw, but I do want to mention that he builds tree houses that are so beautiful that people come from all over the world to vacation in these tree houses. Do I have that right?
Yeah, we rented it out for 9 years, and now it's kind of taken over by mice. But we're going to clean it out and use it as kind of a playhouse for our grandkids.
Oh, that's wonderful. And he makes these beautiful lamps. This is turning into the Harry Reynolds show, but he
He'd
makes these
like that.
beautiful Tiffany lamps, doesn't he?
He does, yeah, wood and stained glass. They're really beautiful.
Okay, and one last thing, and then we'll get on to the second person in your household. When Harry retired from teaching, he decided to kind of become a fix-it, an old kind of handyman. And typically, businesses of this type are called things like no job too small or we'll do anything. Give me the name of Harry's business.
It was called Maybe I Will.
Maybe I will. In other words, I might take the job, I'll decide.
Maybe I won't.
Hey,
Lately,
but
it's
let's
been
get
maybe
on
I
to you.
won't.
I just had the pleasure of reading an advanced copy of a book that's, I think, coming out early next year. And that is, oh, you might have it there or a cover
Well,
there.
I do have the cover is out. The book won't be out till February.
It's just fabulous. Okay. Sheltering Angel of Bella Wood. Tell us a
Right.
little bit about it, Peggy.
Well, speaking of my husband, we come from very different backgrounds. My parents grew up in moonshine, Virginia country. So three or four of my books are set in Southwest Virginia. My husband, however, is, Boston aristocracy, you might say. And his great grandparents were in first class on the Titanic. So half my books are about his family and half are about my family. And we often joke that my ancestors made moonshine and delivered it to his ancestors in Boston for their afternoon martinis. So one book I wrote about him, and this is a book that came out in 23 called Sheltering Angel.
I know it well. It's a beautiful
It's
book.
about his great grandparents who were on the Titanic, and I've fictionalized it so I can create dialogue, etc. But this book has been a bestseller on Amazon Kindle, and is still selling very well. Has about 2,500 reviews and counting. And so I thought, in the interim, I wrote a book. My latest book is called Willie Rum Running Queen, which is about Willie Carter Sharp, the most notorious moonshine driver in the history of Prohibition. So I go back and forth between moonshine and then the Royals. And so Sheltering Angel of Bella Wood is a sequel to the Titanic book. And I
Now
wrote that
let me
yeah.
interrupt you right there. When you decided to do a sequel to a novel about the Titanic, were you aware that that ship went down? It sank, Pigeli. The ship
Well,
sank.
actually, his great grandfather is at the bottom of the sea with the
Oh,
ship. They never found his body,
mm,
so we assume he went down with the ship, and we haven't looked for him, but we'll just assume that's where he is.
yeah.
So I thought people have asked me, well, what happened to Florence after she was rescued on the Carpathia? And I thought, well, I should try to figure that out. And then Harry handed me this little notebook that's typewritten letters of from his grandfather, written during World War One, and sent to his grandmother. And I read all the letters and just wept when I read them. And I found out that not only was his grandfather in World War One, but his grandfather's brother Wells was in World War One as well. So Jack was in the army, and Wells joined the brand new Marine Corps, which previously had been part of the Navy. And so I thought, well, it's let's set the book during World War II. So war is going on. And as war is going on, Florence's granddaughter visits her, and they open this box of letters, and they begin reading them. So the letters from Wells I had to create from research mostly, but I thought, these are dark times we're living in, and it might be time for a dark story. There are wars going on right now, as we know, in Ukraine and Gaza, and war has been going on. Well, Gilgamesh, uh, oral stories about war go back to Gilgamesh in the 2150 BCE, and then very few people have written about what's happening on the home front. So the story is about Florence and her granddaughter, two different generations, and how the war affected them, and how Eva is affected by reading these letters sent from her father and her uncle, whom she never met because he was killed in the Battle of Belleau Wood, which is what this new novel is about. I was just rereading it and going, wow, this is a really dark story. But I counter those dark stories with the moonshine stories. Um, so here I am. And then currently I'm working on a medieval book about Harry's ancestors in
Wow.
Scotland. So,
Well, well, getting back to Belleau Wood, I was lucky enough to read an advanced copy. I know it won't be out until early next year, but the thing that impressed me was not only the absurd amount of research. I don't know how you could have done it, even with the help of the original letters, but the idea of you could get the horror and the futility of war from people who are not within 3,000 miles of the action, it's action once removed, and yet it's as powerful and dramatic as any waterfront novel. I think that a warfront novel. I think that's just amazing. You did a great job there. I'll be looking forward to seeing that. But go ahead, you
thank
were going to
you.
talk about a different book.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm only a few chapters into the medieval book, but that one of the things about Belleau Wood that I think is really important, and it's all based on a true story. Eva is based on Harry's mother, who went to live with her grandmother in New York City, and Eva decides, and as did Harry's mother, to become a nurse's assistant in a vet's hospital, and what she discovers there are severe cases of PTSD. And as we know, today PTSD is an epidemic among our veterans. And so I think it's important to go back and look at that. I mean, I think the book is it's a painful book to read. I hope it's well written enough to be uplifting. And having Eva, who's turning 17 in the book, gives us a sense that life is going to go on. There is life after war, and there's love, and there's beauty and joy. So I hope that the book ends with sort of an upsweep and a happy
It
ending.
does. Yeah, no, it certainly does. It's a beautiful book. Another book that really impressed me was a nonfiction book of yours. This one, can you tell us a little bit about While in Darkness There Is Light?
Now, this was another book that involves my husband. It's a nonfiction book.
I swear this is turning into the Harry Reynolds show, but that's all right.
That's
Tell,
okay. He
see,
would love that.
I've read this book maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I always think of it as a Vietnam book, the tragedy of Vietnam, and yet most of the blurbs have to do with Australia, and I couldn't make the connection. Could you just recap the essence of the book for us?
Yeah, during the Vietnam War, Harry went to boarding school and made a lot of friends there. And then during the Vietnam era, a lot of younger people wouldn't realize this, but colleges shut down because of protests, student protests. So a couple of his friends decided while the schools were shut down, they would do some traveling. And they went to Australia, and they were just uh, enthralled with everything about Australia. And these are boys from pretty privileged backgrounds. So they pulled some money together and bought 460 acres of land in far north Queensland and started their own farm.
Tell
And
us,
then invited
let me
their friends to come over.
let me just interrupt. Tell us again who the main character is of this. Who are you talking about here?
Um, his name is Kim Haskell, his father was mayor of Wilmington, Delaware, and then he became a congressman, I think from Pennsylvania, because he has a farm in Pennsylvania as well. Quite a well-known fellow. Kim is still living in far north Queensland and farming fruit trees there. And then Rich Trapnell was the other friend, and Rich died a few years ago from skin cancer because the tropical sun in northern Australia is pretty intense. And then one of the main characters is Charlie Dean, who is the brother of Howard Dean, who ran for president in 2003. I guess it was 1974. Charlie disappeared in Laos. He was taken prisoner by the Pathet Lao as he was traveling around Southeast Asia. And Howard went over a few times to try to find Charlie, and then discovered that he had been executed by the Pathet Lao. And then when he was running for president in 2003, he went to Laos and found Charlie's remains and brought them back to the US. So Charlie is buried now in uh, Long Island in the family cemetery. So again, I'm a really happy person. I tend
Yeah,
to
you're
write
really perking things up.
I really tend to write dark stories, and I think I kind of get it out of my system by writing, and then I can be my happy self once the
Okay, but
story.
to me, a slightly more upbeat book of yours was the rum running story. Tell us a little bit about the female rum runner.
Oh, Willie Carter Sharp was she was a rebel. She grew up on a farm driving farm equipment for her father and discovered that she had quite a talent for driving. And then she marries into a bootleg whiskey family, and the boss, the father of the man she marries, puts her to work driving cars, delivering whiskey all over the East Coast. And then eventually she kind of outgrows her husband, and they get divorced, and she falls in love with a young bootlegger. But she went to jail 13 times for
Mm.
her work in the bootleg industry, and eventually kind of sold out to get out of jail, and kind of became a stool pigeon for the other bootleggers, and testified for the federal government, who were accusing the whiskey dealers of robbing the federal government from tax money. 50% of the price of a bottle of whiskey today goes to the federal government. So in the South, in Virginia, they're still making their own moonshine and not paying a nickel to the federal government for it. And some of them
Wow.
are still going to jail. So
Wow. Now, how
she
much of
sold
that?
out, and then the lawyer told her she has to disappear because both sides of the law would be looking for her. No one knows what became of her. So I take you up to the very last sighting, and then who knows? No one ever found her grave. And
Wow.
maybe if people read the book, we'll discover what happened to her.
Give us the name of the book again, Pigeli. What's the name?
Willie Rum Running Queen.
Okay. And most of it is based on history. Is that your favorite way to write, to take some kind of historical context and fictionalize it? Do you love that more than doing anything else?
That's a painful question.
Uh-oh.
I really don't have much imagination.
Oh, sure you do.
Well, I've read Wallace Stegner, and I knew a fellow whose father was Wallace Stegner's best friend. And Sherry Gray told me that everything Stegner wrote was true, except he changed a few things. And I
Wow.
thought, well, why not? So I'm not, equating myself with Wallace Stegner by any means, but um, I hated history when I was a kid in high school. I absolutely hated it. And then I discovered historical fiction and realized these people were real and they lived and they had some of the same problems I have. So I became really interested in historical fiction. So that's pretty much what I write now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and you do it beautifully. Another theme that seems to run through your writing, I think anyway, with the Rum Running Story and others, is feminism. Do you ever start a project, start a book thinking, I'm going to advance the cause of feminism with this book? Or is that something that just happens naturally?
I definitely think it's in me. I'm an only daughter with three brothers. And so I grew up, playing with boys and climbing trees. And, I can throw a football as well as any man right now, except maybe.
Well, the Jets could use you.
Yes, I know.
I want you to think about that. But go ahead. Yeah.
There were no restrictions. I was treated like a guy and, had skinned knees and skinned elbows and along with my brothers. And we fought and wrestled and giggled and had a great time. So yeah, I write books about strong women because I believe my brothers made me a strong woman.
Yeah, yeah, I noticed that as a theme keeps going throughout. And tell us again what we mentioned at the beginning of this interview, because we don't have too much time left. I wish we had more time, but I've decided to keep these at 30 minutes, because let's face it, some of these poets can be really boring. I mean, obviously, I'm going to offend a lot of my poetry friends. I could talk to you all day, but anyway, tell us a little bit about the project you're working on now. That kind of slipped by.
Oh
Your
yeah, you'll
newest
love
book.
this. I discovered that my husband is descended from kings of Scotland. And this is like his his ancestor was John Comyn, who was in line in 1300 to become the king of Scotland, and Robert the Bruce wanted to be the king of Scotland, and they met at a church in Dumfries, Scotland, had an argument, and Robert the Bruce pulled the dagger and ran him through.
Oh,
So that I thought that sounds like a book.
it doesn't sound like a major female character, though. Is it a male-oriented
Well,
book?
that's interesting. The story is told by a squire for John Comyn, and as it turns out, he's a little feminine. So
Close enough.
yeah, right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And
So
how?
I just want to say you held up the Black Bonnet, which was my first book, and that was a bestseller for New England Press. And I was in my writing group. We have a new member of my writing group, and we were talking about my books, and I was saying how that I heard the voice of the character in the Black Bonnet who said, write my story, and the woman said, "You wrote the Black Bonnet," and I said,
Oh,
"Yeah." I mean that book came out in 1997 or
wow.
1996. So it's been a long time ago, but it still resonates today. So
Oh,
that's
that's great. Isn't that a great feeling as a writer when something pops up out of the past like that? It sounds like you're very committed to helping other writers with the book clubs and things like that. And I think you do workshops, etc. Can you tell us a little bit about those activities of yours when you're not writing, but you're helping others to write?
Yeah, I have an editing business, and I get, you can reach me through my website, but I love helping writers discover what they have to say and help them say it as well as they possibly can. I've been running a writing group here in Lincoln, Vermont for 23 years, and we just have two new people who want to get in. So, I have to say, well, we ought to limit it to 10 people because if it gets bigger than that, it becomes sort of unwieldy.
Yeah.
And then I taught in an MFA program for 12 years in Kentucky, a low residency program. Um,
Oh, that's
so
terrific.
yeah, I
You,
really
you mentioned
love,
your website before. I want to tell people again,
yeah,
it's luellabryant.com, I think is the
right.
website, right? Because I was
That's
I was there this morning, and it's just a plethora of things there. That's terrific. Well, as I say, I could go on reminiscing with you forever, but I do want to keep these to a half hour. It was so great to talk to you, Pigeli. Enjoy yourself. My best to Hacksaw. Thank you so much for being a guest here. We're not publicizing the podcast yet, but once I get three or four more people interviewed, I'm going to start putting it out to the public. So wish me luck on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great service. You're the best advocate I know for other writers. So
Oh,
thank you for everything you do.
oh, thank you, Pigeli. And you enjoy the rest of the day and my best to the Hacksaw.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye now. Thank you.